Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something most men will never admit they're confused about. When a woman rejects you, but still acts interested. That's right, she says no, yet her actions tell a completely different story. And I'll be honest with you, this is one of the most confusing and frustrating experiences you can go through in dating. I've spent years working as a therapist, and I've seen countless men come to me feeling lost, questioning themselves, or even thinking they're being played. And the truth? Often, they're not being played at all. What's happening is far more subtle and honestly far more revealing about human behavior and connection than most people realize. Here's what I've learned. When someone rejects you but still shows interest, it's not always about you lacking something. In fact, it often shows that she sees value in you, but she's struggling with her own fears, uncertainties, or emotional boundaries. She may enjoy the attention, the connection, or the comfort of knowing someone cares, but she isn't ready to fully commit, or maybe she's testing the waters for herself. Over the years, I've had countless conversations with men stuck in this exact scenario. I've witnessed the internal battle, the pull between wanting to chase, wanting to respect her no, and trying to make sense of signals that seem contradictory. And here's the hard truth. Most men respond in ways that push her further away without even realizing it. The confusion, the overthinking, the attempts to win her over usually backfire. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do when you find yourself in this situation. I'm going to break it down in a way that's practical, deeply psychological, and yes, a little controversial. By the end, you'll see why letting go of traditional expectations and understanding the subtle signals she's giving can completely change the dynamic. So, if you've ever been rejected yet still felt her interest, stay with me. This is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about attraction, boundaries, and influence. 1. Understanding her mixed signals. When a woman rejects you but still acts interested, the first step is to understand why her behavior feels so contradictory. From my experience as a therapist, I've seen men get completely caught up in trying to decode these mixed signals, as if there's some secret code they must crack. The truth is, there's no mystery in most cases. There's simply human emotion at play, and it's often messy. People are rarely perfectly consistent, especially when feelings, fear, and uncertainty collide. One of the first things I make clear to the men I work with is this: her actions often reflect her inner conflict, not your shortcomings. She might enjoy the connection you provide, the way you make her feel seen or appreciated, but at the same time, she could be holding herself back for reasons that have nothing to do with you. It could be fear of commitment, personal doubts, or simply a desire to keep her options open. When you realize this, it shifts your perspective. You're no longer questioning your value or trying to fix her reaction. You're observing the situation with clarity. I remember sitting with a man who felt completely confused after being rejected, yet she kept texting him, laughing at his jokes, and even hinting at meeting up. He was emotionally drained, believing he had to do something drastic to change her mind. I asked him a simple question: do her actions make you feel respected or drained? That question alone made him pause. He realized that while her behavior might be flattering, it wasn't consistent enough to form a foundation for connection. Mixed signals, I explained, are not a reflection of your worth. They're a reflection of her uncertainty. Engaging with her signals intelligently means stepping back and observing without over-investing emotionally. It means noticing when she shows genuine interest versus when she's simply enjoying attention. There's a difference, and understanding that difference is critical. It allows you to respond appropriately rather than react impulsively. This is where many men get trapped. They feel rejected, see her interest, and then double down in ways that push her further away. Emotional clarity, patience, and self-respect become your strongest tools in these situations. So, the key takeaway here is simple but powerful. Mixed signals aren't a puzzle to solve. They're an invitation to understand human behavior more deeply. They challenge you to balance attraction with detachment, curiosity with discernment. By recognizing that her contradictory behavior is often about her, not you, you gain a sense of control and perspective. This understanding becomes the foundation for every choice you make moving forward, ensuring that your response comes from insight, not desperation. 2. Why rejection doesn't always mean no. When a woman rejects you, most men immediately assume it's a hard no and take it personally. I can't tell you how many times I've seen men spiral into self-doubt, replaying every interaction and wondering what they did wrong. But here's the first lesson I teach in my sessions. Rejection is rarely a full stop. In fact, it's often just a pause, a hesitation, or a reflection of her inner conflict. Understanding this can completely change how you approach these situations. Think about it from a psychological perspective. Human emotions are rarely straightforward. She might be genuinely interested in you, but external factors, past experiences, fear of vulnerability, social pressures, or even timing can make her pull back. Rejection in these moments is not about your value, it's about her processing and protecting herself. Men often overlook this because they focus only on the words she says, rather than the subtle cues in her behavior. I've had men tell me they felt shut down after she rejected them, yet they described consistent signs of curiosity, texting late, laughing at jokes, or finding ways to connect. These are not contradictions. They're signals that attraction still exists, even if her mind is saying something different. I remember working with a client who faced repeated rejections from a woman he genuinely liked. Each time she said no, he withdrew, thinking it was over. Yet every week she would initiate conversation, respond warmly, and sometimes hint at wanting to meet. He was confused and frustrated, convinced she was playing games. I explained to him that her rejection wasn't a final verdict. It was her way of negotiating her own comfort level. By realizing this, he shifted his approach. Instead of pushing, he maintained his own life, showed confidence, and allowed her to come forward on her own terms. Interestingly, this change in behavior made her more consistently responsive because he stopped trying to earn her interest. The key lesson here is that rejection can be an invitation to step back, observe, and respect her pace. It doesn't mean she has zero interest. It means she's not ready to fully commit, at least not yet. Men who understand this dynamic stop chasing blindly and start making choices from a position of power, not desperation. It's about recognizing the difference between someone saying not now versus never. So if you find yourself facing rejection while still sensing her interest, pause before reacting. Look beyond the words. Pay attention to her actions and context. When you educate yourself on this subtle but powerful distinction, you gain clarity, confidence, and the ability to navigate the situation without losing self-respect. Remember, attraction isn't linear. Understanding the psychology behind her hesitation is what sets confident, composed men apart from those who chase blindly and burn themselves out in the process. 3. The power of staying calm and detached. One of the most powerful tools a man can have when a woman rejects him but still acts interested is the ability to stay calm and detached. I've seen it countless times in my practice. Men get caught in a storm of emotions, reacting impulsively to every text, every like, every laugh, as if their entire value depends on her approval. The truth, emotional overinvestment is the fastest way to destroy attraction, even when she's secretly intrigued. Staying calm doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It means regulating your emotions, observing the situation, and responding from a place of clarity instead of panic. Think about it this way. When a woman sees a man lose his composure or overreact to her mixed signals, her brain registers neediness, uncertainty, and low self-confidence. That tension kills attraction faster than rejection itself. I've worked with men who admitted that after a few impulsive texts or overeager attempts to see her, they noticed her pulling away more. It's counterintuitive, but the more you chase, the less control you have and the less attractive you appear. Detachment in this context is not coldness. It's a calm presence that shows you are grounded, self-assured, and emotionally independent. It communicates that you value yourself, your time, and your energy. From experience, I can tell you that women who send mixed signals often respond more positively to a man who is composed and confident rather than reactive. It sparks curiosity, it creates tension, and it naturally increases attraction. In one case I observed, a man shared that after stepping back and focusing on his own life instead of her reactions, she started initiating contact on her own. His calmness shifted the dynamic without a single word of persuasion. Another key aspect of detachment is maintaining your boundaries. When a woman rejects you but continues to show interest, it's tempting to bend over backward to win her over. But, in reality, boundaries are magnetic. They communicate self-respect, and women, consciously or subconsciously, are drawn to men who protect their time and energy. You don't have to prove anything. You simply live your life fully while remaining aware of her signals. Detachment gives you the mental space to evaluate her actions without being emotionally hijacked. Finally, staying calm allows you to make smarter decisions. Instead of responding impulsively, you can choose when, how, and if you engage. This clarity prevents frustration, protects your confidence, and ultimately puts you in a position of power. From a therapeutic standpoint, men who master calm detachment often experience less confusion, less emotional roller coaster, and a higher likelihood of building genuine attraction or knowing when to walk away gracefully. In short, calmness and detachment are not signs of disinterest. They are the demonstration of self-mastery. When you can remain composed in the face of her mixed signals, you send a subtle but powerful message. You are confident, independent, and in control. That, more than anything else, is what shifts the energy and draws her in, or shows you clearly when it's time to step back. 4. Reading her actions, not just her words. One of the biggest mistakes men make when dealing with a woman who rejects them, but still acts interested, is relying solely on her words. I've seen it over and over in my practice. A man will hear her say, "I'm not ready," or "I just want to be friends," and he immediately believes the story she tells him, ignoring everything she does that contradicts it. But here's the reality. Actions almost always reveal the truth more reliably than words. I remember a man in a relationship scenario who came to me completely frustrated. He had been dating a woman casually, and she told him she wasn't ready for anything serious. But despite her words, she would consistently initiate contact, laugh at his jokes, and even show subtle signs of jealousy when he talked about spending time with other women. He was confused. How could she reject him verbally but act as if she cared deeply? This is a classic example of why reading actions is critical. Her behavior was sending a message louder than any words could. In situations like these, actions are the language of her subconscious. Words can be filtered through fear, social expectations, or uncertainty. Actions, on the other hand, are harder to fake consistently. If she's texting late at night, responding with genuine enthusiasm, or making time to be around you, even after saying no, it signals that part of her wants connection. It doesn't mean you ignore her boundaries, but it does mean you need to observe carefully, interpret wisely, and respond strategically. I explained to my client that his confusion was coming from giving too much weight to her verbal rejection while ignoring the patterns in her behavior. Once he started paying attention to the way she consistently engaged with him, her energy, her effort, her presence, he began to understand the true nature of their dynamic. He realized she wasn't rejecting him out of disinterest. She was holding back due to internal conflict. Recognizing this allowed him to navigate the situation with more confidence, clarity, and patience. The takeaway here is simple. Women often say things they feel are safe or socially expected, but their actions reveal deeper truths. As a man, learning to read those actions without overreacting emotionally is key. Observe consistency, note effort, and measure how much energy she invests in connecting with you. That's where the real information lies. When you start focusing on actions rather than words, you step out of confusion and into clarity. You see the subtle patterns that indicate attraction, hesitation, or genuine interest. And most importantly, you can respond from a place of insight rather than desperation. Understanding this distinction transforms the way you approach mixed signals in relationships and allows you to maintain your dignity while interpreting her behavior accurately. 5. Avoiding common mistakes. Men make when a woman rejects you but still acts interested. Many men make mistakes that completely undermine their chances of creating genuine attraction. In my years as a therapist, I've seen patterns repeat so often that they could almost be a checklist of what not to do. Understanding these common mistakes is critical because often the problem isn't her. It's how men respond to the confusion. I remember working with a man in a relationship scenario who was deeply invested in a woman who had rejected him verbally. Every time she sent a mixed signal, like teasing him, laughing at his jokes, or reaching out unexpectedly, he reacted impulsively. He would overanalyze every word, text her incessantly, and even try to prove his value by doing things he didn't genuinely want to do. The more effort he invested to win her over, the more she seemed to pull back. By the time he came to me, he was emotionally exhausted and questioning his own worth. The first mistake I pointed out to him was overchasing. When a man doubles down after rejection, he signals neediness, desperation, and insecurity. This is the fastest way to create distance, even when she's still interested. Attraction thrives on tension, curiosity, and emotional independence, not on constant validation. The second mistake is ignoring boundaries. Just because she shows interest through her actions doesn't mean you can dismiss her words or push past her comfort. Disrespecting boundaries only reinforces fear or resistance. In the case of my client, he realized that by trying to bend her to his will, he was actually creating more conflict than connection. A third common error is overthinking and overanalyzing every interaction. Men often replay conversations, dissect every phrase, and imagine hidden meanings that aren't there. This mental spiral leads to anxiety, frustration, and poor decision-making. I encourage my client to focus on observable behavior rather than hypothetical intentions, which helped him regain clarity and emotional balance. Finally, men often make the mistake of losing themselves in the process. They abandon hobbies, friends, and personal goals just to align with her fluctuating interest. This is the fastest way to reduce attraction because a man who has his own life, passions, and boundaries is inherently more magnetic. My client discovered that by returning to his routines and prioritizing his growth, he not only felt more confident, but also observed her interest becoming steadier without him pushing or pleading. The key takeaway here is simple. Avoid chasing blindly, respect her boundaries, observe actions over words, and maintain your own life. These mistakes are usually born from fear of rejection, not a lack of value. When men learn to respond thoughtfully, maintain composure, and protect their own emotional space, they not only avoid sabotaging potential connection, but also create an environment where attraction can naturally grow, even when mixed signals are present. 6. Turning confusion into attraction. When a woman rejects you but still acts interested, the confusion can feel like a trap. But it doesn't have to be. In fact, confusion can be one of your greatest tools if you know how to use it. From my experience as a therapist, I've seen men flip this situation entirely by shifting their mindset and approach. Confusion isn't a weakness. It's an opportunity to create curiosity, respect, and deeper attraction. The first step is to understand the psychology behind mixed signals. When a woman sends contradictory cues, it usually means she's torn between desire and caution, comfort and fear, or attraction and uncertainty. Most men react by trying to solve the puzzle, chasing answers, or pushing for clarity. But here's the key: this only creates pressure and often leads her to withdraw. Confusion works in your favor when you maintain calm, self-assured energy and resist the urge to chase or over-explain yourself. I've had clients describe situations where a woman would repeatedly reject plans, but then continue texting, laughing, and flirting subtly. Initially, they felt frustrated and powerless, but once they stopped trying to fix the situation, they noticed something remarkable. She became more attentive, more curious, and more willing to invest emotionally. That's the power of turning confusion into attraction. By holding space, respecting boundaries, and maintaining your own life, you create a magnetic tension that naturally draws her in. Another critical aspect is playing with subtle contrast in behavior. Without being manipulative, you can create a sense of mystery and intrigue by not being fully predictable. For example, if she sees that you respect her no, yet remain calm, confident, and emotionally independent, it signals that you're not desperate for approval, but you're still interesting and present. Women are naturally drawn to men who challenge their expectations without forcing them. Confusion in this sense becomes a tool to demonstrate your emotional intelligence and stability. It's also important to focus on your own life. Confusion only turns into attraction when you're not overinvested in her approval. Men who engage fully in their work, hobbies, friendships, and personal growth exude confidence effortlessly. This energy doesn't just attract her, it commands respect. I often remind men in therapy that the goal isn't to win her, it's to become a man whose life is so compelling that she wants to be part of it. Finally, communication plays a subtle role. You don't need to lecture or demand explanations. Instead, keep interactions light, playful, and engaging. Ask questions that spark curiosity, share stories that reveal your depth, and let her actions reveal her intentions over time. Confusion becomes your ally when it allows her to wonder, reflect, and invest emotionally without pressure. In essence, turning confusion into attraction isn't about tricks or games, it's about patience, composure, and self-mastery. When you embrace uncertainty, respect her signals, and remain fully confident in yourself, the dynamics shift. Mixed signals no longer feel chaotic, they become a pathway to deeper connection, attraction, and mutual respect. 7. When to step back and respect boundaries. One of the most important lessons I've taught men in my practice is that knowing when to step back is often more powerful than trying to push forward. When a woman rejects you but still shows signs of interest, it's tempting to chase, overanalyze, or overcompensate. But the truth is, respecting boundaries isn't a weakness. It's a demonstration of self-respect, emotional maturity, and confidence. And it often shifts the dynamic in your favor. I remember working with a man who was in exactly this situation. She had told him she wasn't ready for a serious relationship, yet she continued to flirt, text, and invite him into her life. He was torn between hope and frustration, unsure if he should keep pursuing her or step back. He came to me feeling exhausted and emotionally raw. I explained that the key wasn't in winning her over, but in recognizing the signs that she needed space and clarity. Once he understood this, everything changed. Stepping back doesn't mean disappearing entirely or giving up interest. It means creating a balance where you protect your emotional energy and let her process her feelings without pressure. In practice, this could mean reducing the frequency of communication, focusing more on your personal growth, and resisting the urge to seek constant reassurance. By doing this, you're signaling that your time and attention are valuable, and you're not dependent on her approval for your sense of self-worth. Another important point is recognizing the difference between mixed signals and consistent disinterest. Some men mistake minor signs of curiosity for ongoing attraction and push forward when it's actually time to pause. Paying attention to patterns in behavior rather than single moments helps you understand when stepping back is necessary. In the case of my client, once he reduced his overcommunication, he noticed she began showing more genuine interest, taking initiative, and demonstrating effort that aligned with her words. His calm patience gave her the space to clarify her intentions on her own, which ultimately strengthened the connection. Respecting boundaries also builds trust. When a woman sees that you respect her limits, she's more likely to open up emotionally over time. Conversely, ignoring boundaries or trying to force clarity often creates resistance and pushes her further away. Men who learn to step back strategically gain an advantage. They maintain their dignity, manage their emotions effectively, and allow attraction to develop naturally instead of artificially. Finally, stepping back gives you clarity. It allows you to evaluate whether her actions align with her words, whether she's genuinely interested, or whether it's time to redirect your energy elsewhere. Emotional detachment doesn't mean disinterest, it means self-respect. When a man steps back at the right time, he creates an environment where attraction can grow organically, tension is maintained, and both parties feel safe to explore the connection without pressure. In short, knowing when to step back and respect boundaries is not a retreat. It's a strategic, confident, and emotionally intelligent approach. It protects your energy, signals self-worth, and often encourages her to reveal her true intentions naturally. In situations of mixed signals, this is one of the most powerful moves a man can make. Dealing with a woman who rejects you but still shows interest can feel confusing, even frustrating. The key is understanding her mixed signals, reading her actions, and responding with calm confidence. Respect her boundaries, avoid common mistakes, and focus on your own life. This is what turns confusion into attraction. Stepping back when necessary doesn't mean giving up. It demonstrates self-respect and emotional maturity. By observing, reflecting, and maintaining your composure, you create space for genuine connection while protecting your own energy. Remember, attraction thrives on patience, clarity, and emotional intelligence, not chasing or desperation.